What up, party people? Welcome to episode 11 of the Nick and the Hick. I am Eric, aka Captain Cannon, aka the Nick. And with me, as always, is.
Howdy there, partners. I be the Hick. Michael Brevard Decker, a.k.a. CaptainBD.
And today on this episode, we're going to talk about the Hateful Eight,
Yes.
also known as a really long fucking movie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It gets even longer if you want it to.
Yeah. Also, briefly talked about what we've played. So I guess we just jump into that real quick. I wanted to hear you told me that you pretty much finished Ghosts of Tsushima for the most part, right?
So I didn't think I'd be playing too much of Ghost this weekend because I had a Madden 21 preview, but I actually played through those hours pretty quick. And then I did Samurai Jack Friday night.
Right.
And then which is a good game. I'm gonna start playing that this week. But then, man, I just kept thinking about all the time it was gonna take me to finish up all the Tsushima tales and going through and getting all the side quests with each character. You know, the archer, the thief, the Yuna, and you know what I mean, everybody. And it was like kind of weighing on me, like I had like work to do, you know, like homework that was due in a week. So I started hitting it hard and playing, you know, probably 4 or 5 hours each day. Freaking Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and just doing boring work, just taking the tales, going through and finding all the records, going through and finding all the, you don't even need to do all the records. You only have to do 20, but I did them all.
Oh, yeah? To get a trophy?
Yep. And then went through, you already have that one, and then went through and made sure I did all the duels. Because there are more duels than just those 5. There are actual.
Oh, there are.
There are duels that are in side quests. Small ones, but yeah, I guess the duel's a duel. But I went there and did all that shit, man. So now I have everything wrapped up to where I do the last main storyline where I meet Yuna up and we go find the con. You know, I do that, and it should wrap everything up for me to get the platinum.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know how much more I have to do. I mean, I have to finish some of the side missions.
Yeah.
So it almost sounds like you were grinding.
I was grinding. Yes. Yeah. I'm actually at a higher percent than you, my friend.
Oh, well, yeah. I've been, I guess, slacking with the game.
See, what I'm afraid of is that if I was to beat it, then I wouldn't want to go back and do everything else. So that's why I'm doing that before I beat it, because I feel like once I beat this game, I'm probably going to be done with it for a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially since you've got everything. Once you go platinum, I mean...
Yeah, what's the point? I mean, well, luckily they're coming out with some multiplayer.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm looking at your thing right now. I hate the hidden trophies, man. You got 3 hidden trophies. Oh, no, wait. Or did you get those?
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah.
The hidden trophies
sucks, man.
The hidden trophies are just the silvers for helping those people out, the archer and the, you know what I mean? Well, those are some of them. Yeah. Some of them, I forget. I'll have to look at them. I've been looking at them so fucking much the last few days.
Yeah, I gotta get back on it. The only thing I've played is the Modern Warfare 2.
It's a good game.
Remaster. Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to save these opinions until I was done with it. But one, I didn't realize or I didn't remember how many times you die.
Yes.
Because you die a hell of a lot of times.
And it takes so long to come back to life.
Yeah.
The slow-mo shows you the grenade that you didn't see coming, shows you this or that, gives some stupid-ass quote, and then you just wait.
Yeah, you wait. And then there are so many great moments, though, in that game. You know? Yeah. Just so many good levels and stuff. I keep thinking about what you said the last time was the airport, how they said that you could just fire, don't actually have to kill anybody. That's crazy. One of my favorite scenes in the game was always the space, the point of view of the space, where you see the Earth and the nuke goes off, and you see it actually hit that was always and you don't do anything on that scene. Like all you
No.
do is you look to your right. That's it.
Did you play the first Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty 4?
No. This is the only Call of Duty I've ever played.
So that one, like, close to the end of the game, you see them fire the nukes off from the ground. And you're like, wow, this is fucking nuts.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, that's all I've been playing. But
that's
I
all
gotta
I played.
Get back in the Ghost.
A little bit of Fall Guys. I didn't play any this weekend. Just probably Thursday, Friday. I played a little bit with my wife. I've just been playing Ghost, man, and I'm ready to wrap that shit up.
Yeah.
I'm really debating on should I not touch it at all until I just beat it and then stream that Friday and get my platinum and stream that, or should I hop on immediately after this pod and just beat the damn game?
Right. Right. I got to play it. I got to finish it. So that leads us to the Hateful Eight, which came out in 2015 because we're almost done with this. Quentin Tarantino retrospective, and this is I'm trying to look at the time here. Where is it? I passed it. It's
like
long.
3 hours the regular.
Yeah, so
4
we'll
hours.
get that right away. Yeah, it was almost 3 hours. So you actually watched the extended version.
Yep.
And Netflix conveniently breaks it up into episodes, right?
Yep. I'm hoping that's what will probably happen with the up and coming Snyder cut.
That's what's supposed to happen. Yeah.
Easy, just like this.
They're gonna do episodes. It's gonna be like 4 episodes, 4 1-hour episodes. Yeah.
One thing that I hate about this, right, the Netflix setup and the 4 episodes is every single time you start an episode, it starts off with the opening scene of the beginning of the movie.
Really? What, as a recap or?
Yeah, yep, as a recap, and you have an option on your remote to skip the recap.
Good.
Yeah.
Because that's
the first couple ones I was watching, I was like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, this is killing so much time.
Yeah, you would think they'd come up with a better recap than that. So, yeah, again, with that said, that starts us off with the movie. So let me ask you this. We saw Django. It started off saying the year and then how many years before the Civil War. Did we get any indication of what year this movie took place?
The only thing that I was thinking of is that he had a bounty placed on his head, right?
Right.
And then I think he said it was 3 years ago when the last bounty hunter was coming after him. And that would have been the end of the war.
Right. I mean,
so I'm thinking this is 3 years after the Civil War, is what I think.
Well, that's a good guess. We know that this is supposed to be after the Civil War. But, unlike Django, we're never really specifically told. So according to Wikipedia, it's supposed to be 1877. So that would be the 5, 6, 7 years after the war.
Okay.
But again, you don't really know. All you know is that it is post-war because of a lot of they talk about the war a lot. So anyway, it starts off with Major Marquis. Oh, wait, I forgot to say this movie, like a lot of Tarantino movies, breaks it up by chapters.
Yep.
Because he's such a cliche for him at this point. So chapter 1 is the last stage to Red Rock. And we see Major Marquis Warren, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson. And he's standing in the middle of the road. Now, it's very snowy. It's supposed to be Wyoming. But again, we don't know it's Wyoming until someone mentions it later on in the movie. But it's very cold, and there's a blizzard coming. So he's standing in the middle of the road with like a pack of dead bodies. And long story short, because this is going to be a long fucking story, there's a wagon comes to him, and he wants passage. But the guy riding the horses says that the guy inside paid for it, so you got to ask him. So, of course, inside the stagecoach is John the Hangman Ruth, played by Kurt Russell, and he's escorting a fugitive, Daisy. How do you say her last name?
Domergue.
Who's being played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. And so there's a conversation where the what's it called? Ruth and Warren have met each other once before.
So like a killer's banquet.
Yeah. The
Maybe a soldier's banquet.
convention.
I don't know.
A convention of killers, right? So he convinces what's his name? Convinces Russell to help him, so he gets into the thing and he has to stack the dead bodies on the stagecoach. Look, this whole again, I've said this before. This motherfucker Tarantino doesn't know how to edit, and it shows it right here because the whole stagecoach scene, I clocked it too in my version anyway, was over 30 minutes long.
The time, dude, is Kurt Russell telling him to go stand over there.
Yes.
Put your guns down. Put your hands up. Put your hands up higher.
Right. But that I realized was the point of the whole movie was, when for instance, I'm jumping ahead, but like when Russell makes the coffee, it's like he takes it, he drinks it, he doesn't like it, he pours it out. Where's the coffee? It's over here. Where's the water? It's over here.
Yes.
Go over here, do the water. Where's the beans? It's like, dude, we don't need to see all this shit. And that happens a lot in this movie.
A lot. What pisses me off is the shit that he does with Samuel L. Jackson right in the beginning of this scene. What he does with Warren. He does this with every single new person that he meets.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, well, he's got a $10,000 bounty. He's just severely anal. But once he does it to each person, that's the only time he really does it. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't stay on it.
Right.
It's just annoying.
He's very paranoid, but it's not really that's how it's established that he's paranoid. It's not, it's not the quick dialogue where it's like, look, I'm fucking paranoid.
Give me your guns.
Yada. Yeah, it's always like, but that's the other thing is there's a rhetoric and a repetitive rhetoric, and not just with him, but just other the characters. I'll get to that when we get there. But he finally gets in the stagecoach, and he takes his guns. He's very paranoid because, like you said, Daisy is worth $10,000. Of course, nobody seems to know who the fuck she is, though.
No, nobody.
And then the letter is mentioned pretty quickly on. So Samuel L. Jackson, so Warren is supposed to have a letter from Abraham Lincoln. And, Russell asks him to see it again. And he sees it, he takes it out, he pulls it out. Russell reads it and gets a tear in his eye from reading it. And then he stupidly shows it to Daisy, who just spits on it. And then that's a whole fucking thing, because then Samuel L. Jackson's instinct is to punch her in the face, which she then starts flying out of the stagecoach.
Yeah,
and
how hard did he hit her? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And because she's handcuffed to Russell, he goes out the stagecoach. But it was ridiculous. But things like that is extending this long scene that doesn't need to be 40 minutes long.
No, not for all the dialogue that we're about ready to have. The stagecoach is too long.
It is. It's way too long. I remember this is only the second time I've seen this movie. So I remember the first time I felt the same way. I was like, oh my God, when are we getting to this place? They're going to Red Rock because Kurt Russell is the hangman. So he is a bounty hunter, and bounty hunters have the choice to either keep their prisoners alive or just shoot them and then just take the reward.
This was like our dilemma in Django, right? Is why doesn't Waltz kill every single person?
Right.
Dr. Schultz or Dr. Was it Schultz?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Schultz.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he kill every single person? Or why doesn't he keep anyone alive? Right?
Right.
None of his bounties. Well, now here we are. They're explaining that for us.
Yeah, they do explain it. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson says it's very risky or very, I can't remember the word he uses, but dangerous.
He doesn't want that much work.
Right. But Russell likes to see his bounties hang. Mm-hmm. So he's from the moment he catches them all the way to the end of their life, he just likes to see it all complete. Because I think it ties to what you're saying, man. He's just anal, or paranoid, or both. But so she's a handful, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And right away, the N-word is flying across left and right, all over the place. And the one problem with the common thing that happens a lot in this movie is Jennifer Jason Leigh gets punched in the face a lot.
Yes.
And I was having this debate with my wife. Not really a debate, more of a discussion. And she was right in that, you know, Jennifer Jason Leigh gets beat up a lot in the movie.
She was already beat up when you arrived to this
because she
movie.
had a black eye.
Big black
she had
eye.
a black eye. Yeah. And so it's kind of annoying because I'm trying to explain. Well, I'm trying to not explain, but I'm offering the excuse that Jennifer Jason Leigh is not a good person. She's not a good person.
She's a murderer.
And that's true. But you'll see later on in the movie, there are other characters who are just as bad. Yes. And they don't get...
Dude, that's a woman.
Right. They don't get half the violence, I guess, towards them that she does. Because she really gets through the ringer physically in this movie. And I'll, you know, without blowing my load, I just want to say that no one in this movie is likable. No one. I mean, did you find anyone in this movie likable at all?
Everybody that was in Minnie's haberdashery before they were murdered.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
You know, six horse Judy.
Yeah, that's true.
Minnie.
But none of the main characters.
No, they're all pieces of shit.
And I think that's the problem with this movie. But I'll bring that up again later. So then, as they're finally in the stagecoach, they see another person in the snow with a dead horse trying to wave the stagecoach down. Kurt Russell stops the stagecoach because now he's starting to get paranoid that Samuel Jackson has somebody, you know, so they could steal this $10,000 bounty. Speaking of which, Samuel Jackson has a bunch of bodies, and that added up to 8,000. Which again is another like, this guy's 2,000, this guy's 3,000. It's like, why do we need all of this exposition? We don't. So, is this falling clear? So this is chapter 2 called "Son of a Gun." So we're already like 2 chapters into this movie.
Haven't made it there.
And we're not even there yet. Yeah. So they eventually stop for this guy. His name is Chris Mannix, and played by your boy.
My man.
I get his name wrong because I always call him Wally Watkins, but it's Walton Goggins. Walton Goggins.
Yeah, Goggins.
So,
hey, I gotta stop you. Have you ever watched Vice Principals?
No.
Oh God,
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, him and Danny McBride. That's great.
Yeah. He's good in this, though. I will say, Wally is good in this.
Wally.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell is his name again? I just said it.
It's Walter, right?
Walton, yeah.
Walter. He probably goes by Wally.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the world. Sure. Somewhere in the world he does.
I had to get that from somewhere. So I'm just going to refer to him as Wally. So they stop Wally. So Chris Mannix, I don't know this confirmed, but this is just my thing. So there was a TV show, like one of those private detective TV shows or cop shows in the 70s called Mannix. And I know Quentin Tarantino was a big fan of that show, of those shows.
So you think
I think that's where that's the connection. So Chris Mannix, we find out that he's a part of the, Mannix Marauders.
Mm-hmm, Mannix Marauders, yeah.
Which is a group of Southerners who still believe in the rebel cause, I guess you could say.
After the war. And they still go after former slaves, right? People who've been emancipated. So, of course, right away, him and Warren do not see eye to eye. And then eventually, Kurt Russell allows him to come up on the stagecoach. And Mannix does have a very silver tongue. Like, he's very good at talking his way out of things or just speaking. Because he tells them that he's going to be the sheriff of Red Rock. Right. And they don't believe him, but he does persuade them into believing it because he says, like, you're going to leave me out here to die. Then you're going to go to Red Rock and you're going to, get the bounties of all these people. You're going to get that bounty from me. Now, what's the driver's name? DB, I think, or?
Yeah, DB. We never know what that stands for, but yeah.
Now, I did like him. But
Obi.
Obi. And Mannix does use him to say, hey, you're my witness.
Yeah.
When they arrive to town, you let them know.
Yeah, you let them know. Obi is the only good character. So I will kind of change change what I said, that he is the only likable character, but it's only because he doesn't
talk.
seem as, he barely talks. Yeah,
They treat him like shit.
They all trust him, but yet they treat him like shit. Yeah, and you do feel bad for him. You feel bad for him a lot, actually. So they're in the stagecoach, and they finally let him on because, like I said, he persuades them. And we never really know if he really is the sheriff of Red Rock. We just assumed he's telling the truth.
What do you think?
I think he was.
I think he was too.
Yeah, I think he was. Because they talk about how, I mean, he doesn't seem like a very good person.
No.
I mean, he's extremely racist. You know, his father was like a big man in the war, and then he starts telling a story about Warren, and that Warren was, what's it called? He was a POW. He was a POW incarcerated in a rebel prison. He escapes, and how he escapes is he burns it down.
Burns the whole fucking place down.
He thinks it's very innovative, and everyone pretty much tells a story that was pretty innovative. But then Mannix tells a story about how, you know, it pisses him off telling the story because he kills like all these Confederate soldiers, and a lot of them weren't they like.
So he killed 47 Confederate soldiers, but in the process, he killed 37 Union soldiers. So in Mannix's eyes, he's just a murderer altogether.
Yeah. And then he ends up getting his title stripped, and then painted a
yellow.
And then that's the moment that Kurt Russell should have said, "Wait a minute, how are you best friends with Abraham Lincoln?" You know what? But that doesn't get brought up until later, because it does get brought up. But it should have been that light bulb in his head. Anyway, yeah. So you find out that Warren's not really that great of a person either. So let's see, we're missing anything? Yeah. So then we finally get chapter 3, Minnie's haberdashery, and finally, but then it's like not even a quarter done. Let's say barely a quarter done. So we get there, stagecoach comes, the guy comes out, and he helps him. And right away, now, again, we're going to get to this repetitiveness that he does, and Tarantino does in the movie. So OB asks, is Minnie and Sweet Dave in there? And then the man says, no, they're not here. And then Kurt Russell's like, hey, is Minnie and Sweet Dave here? No, they're not here. And then Samuel L. Jackson even asks at one point. It's like, Jesus Christ, how many people have to ask the same question? He
does this throughout the movie with every fucking character.
Yeah. And in such a quick, they're so soon between each other, like it's just like one after the other asking the same thing. So we find out this guy's name is Bob. And now they have, the blizzard's coming, and they have to get the horses into the barn, tie off the what's it called, the stagecoach, and then get inside. So Kurt Russell decides him and what's her name, Daisy, are going to go into the haberdashery while Samuel L. Jackson and OB help Bob with the horses and stuff. So this is where the major annoyance right now. They get into the haberdashery, and first off, they try to open the door, and the door won't open. And then the people inside are saying, kick it open.
Kick it
what?
Open, yeah.
Kick it open. And every single person in the haberdashery has to scream that at the same time. Do you need 4 or 5 people screaming at the same time?
So when Obi comes through and they do it again for him, and he gets the door shut, and he turns around and he's like, that door's a whore. That's funny. Doing that's funny. From the time that it happens, every single other time in this movie, it is no longer funny. Yeah.
No. So they have to kick it open, and then they have to hammer a piece of wood, two pieces of wood, over the door.
One's not enough.
And it's so funny because Kurt Russell, the first thing he says is the Mexican the one who did it? Bob, who's Mexican. And it's like, kind of foreshadowing. It's kind of funny that he would blame him for doing that for no other reason than probably
He's
being a Mexican. So they have to kick it open. Yeah, which is funny. That's what I'm saying. It's funny that he did that. Then they have to hammer it close. And it's like it happens 3 other times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so annoying. But the point of it, I mean, I understand the point of it. The point of it is the moment you walk into the haberdashery, something is off.
Yes.
Something is very off. And you know that, especially with Samuel Jackson. I mean, you get it right away, with the door. What's wrong with the door? No one will really say. But it's more Samuel Jackson because he starts questioning Bob. When he's helping Bob as stagecoach, he's like, where's Minnie? Where's Sweet Dave? And Minnie and Sweet Dave allegedly went to Minnie's mother's house, which is on the other side of the mountain. Sweet Dave, as he tells it, is like this big fat guy who just won't leave his chair. So he's already establishing to us that something's off.
Well, and what else did he say? He said, he was asking how long have you worked for?
Yeah. Well, that was, yeah. And then he says, how long have you worked there? It was like a week or something like that. I think it was a week.
A couple of months, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not long.
But then when Samuel Jackson finally gets into the haberdashery, he just starts noticing things. He sees like a piece of candy on the floor in between 2 boards. So
looks up, sees a jar of candy missing.
Yeah. So we got a bunch of characters in the haberdashery, and we first meet him when Kurt Russell comes in. So there's Michael Madsen, who is playing Joe Gage, which is such a stupid name, in my opinion. I don't know why. It's just the way he says it. Who's quiet, and he's writing in a book. He tells Kurt Russell he's writing his life story.
Okay, let me pause you.
Go ahead.
Do you remember, and this is your second time seeing this movie, right?
Correct, yeah.
So this is my 3rd time. First time in the theater. Second time I've watched this 4-parter before when it first came out on Netflix. And then again in the last couple of days. But anyways, when we watched Reservoir Dogs, and this was Mr. White, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it Mr. White? Yeah, it's Mr. White.
Tim Roth, yeah.
Not Tim Roth. Mr. Orange. Who's
yeah.
No, Mr. Blonde. Mr. Blonde is Michael Madsen.
Madsen, yeah.
Is Blonde. And he was saying, I've always been known as Mr. Blonde, but wait until you see Hateful Eight.
It was Kill Bill, he said it.
Oh, and Kill Bill?
Yeah, okay. He said, wait till people say Kill Bill, and then they won't think of Mr.
Oh,
I
thought it was Hateful Eight, and he was talking about Joe Gage.
But it should have been, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm thinking they're both pretty unimpressive compared to Mr. Blonde. I mean, that was my point. I was wrong in my point, but that was still my point nonetheless.
It's still
not an impressive character.
Yeah. No. His character is weird to me because it's just like Kill Bill. We talked about this in Kill Bill. I'm confused by his convictions in Kill Bill. And on the one hand, he feels like they deserve this, but on the other hand, he wants to get paid. So it's kind of conflicting. And just like this, he's very quiet throughout most of the movie.
Talking about going home and seeing his mama.
And you kind of get a sense later on that he's not too happy with what he has to do, but on the other hand, he doesn't really flinch at what he has to do. So then we get Tim Roth, Oswaldo Mowbray. Now, this is the thing. I texted you this once I was watching this particular scene, and so I said to you,
so much to say. You have so much. You have a lot to say.
I did. I said, keep Christoph Waltz in mind when you're watching, Tim Roth.
Oh yeah.
So here's the thing. I don't know if I knew this the first time watching, but I researched this movie while I was watching it because I was very interested in this.
So that was true.
It depends on what you read. So Quentin Tarantino offered Christoph Waltz a role in the movie. Christoph Waltz said no. However, Quentin claims that the Tim Roth role was written for Tim Roth, was always intended for Tim Roth. I call bullshit. I think it's the other way around. I think he offered Tim Roth just a role in the movie, and then he offered Christoph Waltz Oswaldo. Christoph Waltz said no to Oswaldo, and then Tarantino said, okay, Tim Roth, why don't you take this character instead? because if you look at the way he
They just look alike.
says his lines.
He looks like Schultz.
Yeah, but he says his name. Okay, the first time he says his name, and he does this thing where he raises his eyebrows and raises his eyes and then smiles, which is almost exactly what Christoph Waltz does in both Inglourious Basterds and Django. And so I was like, this is fucking, and the way he speaks, the way his mannerisms and pronounces words, I was like, this is fucking Christoph Waltz. Now, this is not Tim Roth's, it's not his fault. I blame Quentin for this, for telling him to act that way. But it's also the fact that Oswaldo is the only character who's educated, seems educated, just like Christoph Waltz's characters. They're very similar. So I was like, man, this is fucking Christoph Waltz the whole way. So he claims to be the hangman, the actual hangman. And so, of course, he has to prove to Kurt Russell that he is the hangman by showing him papers. It's just too much. There's a lot of formality in this movie,
which they never really explained, because he does that again for Wally. He gives Wally the paperwork too.
Yeah,
but they never explained that they did in fact kill the hangman and took his shit.
Yeah, it's only implied.
Yeah,
it's never exactly explained. No, we find that out later. So then Bruce Dern's in this. He's sitting in the chair. He's playing an old general from the war, who, by the way,
just like in Django, he plays somebody that is not a fan. Of black people, of African Americans. He is not a fan.
No. And his face, he looks like Robert E. Lee. Like the way that his hair is done and his facial hair is done, which obviously is supposed to be the point. Who else am I missing? Those two, and then Bob. That was it. I'm not missing anyone else, I don't think, right?
Nope.
No.
Waldo, Joe Gage,
Waldo,
Bob, and
the general.
The general.
So of course, there's a lot. Oswald seems to be the most, talkative, I guess you could say.
Mm.
So everyone comes back in eventually, and OB. Someone says to OB, okay, make sure there's a line between the what's it called, where the horses are, and the haberdashery, and the shitbox to the haberdashery, which, by the way, the shitbox is so fucking far away.
It is.
From the haberdashery. It's so unfair. So, he says, do a line because of the blizzard, so they could feel the rope. And so I started thinking, just like The Thing, right? The movie and The Thing, they had lines from one place to another because of the blizzard. And I thought, okay, blizzard, The Thing, okay. Kurt Russell,
there's your connections. Okay.
Kurt Russell, The Thing, it gets better. And then the whole point of the haberdashery is something's not right. And paranoia slowly starts to set in. And that's another theme of The Thing, paranoia.
But there's no stupid blood tests.
Yeah. So, again, I researched this. And guess what fucking movie Quentin Tarantino is heavily influenced by when making this fucking The Thing?
Is it The Thing?
Yeah. Even when so he got composer, I'm going to butcher his name. He got composer Morricone. I can't say that because I'm not Italian. It's an Italian name. Ennio Morricone, who composed the Fistful of Dollars trilogy.
Okay.
And he did a lot of Westerns. And in fact, this is the first Western he's composed in over 30 years. But guess what movie he also composed? The Thing. Plus, Quentin took unused songs or music from The Thing and put it in this movie. So I'm like, dude, minus the alien, minus the amazing special effects.
This is The Thing.
And the blood tests, it's The Thing. And I was like, oh my. So somewhere it said that he kind of, obviously he was influenced by 60s Westerns, TV shows. He made a whole thing about that. But plot-wise, the paranoia, the blizzard, being stuck in a small area, it's a lot like The Thing.
Who done it?
Yeah, it's a whodunit. Who's the one that's So all right, what the fuck are we? Because that really got me.
He's tying off the lines from the barn.
Obi's doing the lines.
Yeah.
Poor Ob, because he comes back and he's fucking pissed because he practically froze to death out there.
Not yet. He was pretty pissed there. No, it's the guns later.
Oh, the guns. Yeah. The guns. Yeah. All right. So suspicions start to go. The group. So, okay, hold on. So when Samuel L. Jackson is not in the haberdashery, it's mentioned about his letter. And Mannix is starting to ask questions about it. And then by the time that they eat, there's a stew. That's important. There's a stew. And while they're eating the stew, Mannix starts asking questions about the letter. And he starts saying, like, he says to Kurt Russell, you really believe that, a black soldier was getting letters from the president.
With the yellow stripe.
With the yellow stripe, which again, it was like he should have realized that long on the stagecoach, 40 minutes ago. So eventually Samuel L. Jackson does admit that it's a forgery. It's not real.
So before this though, I gotta, because you just made me think about the redundancy of the movie. So Samuel L. Jackson is in the barn with Bob. Okay?
Bob, yeah.
Now while he's in there, Wally asks somebody, well, have you talked to the N-word in the barn? Or there's an N-word in the barn, and somebody says, there's an N-word in the barn, and he says, yeah, there's an N-word in the barn. And he says, the N-word in the barn with the president from the letter. There's an N-word in the barn with the president from the letter? And like, they just keep repeating each other.
Yeah, it's true. Talking about it now, I start to realize how repetitive a lot of it is. And the whole thing with the door, like you said, it's supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be this comedic thing, and it's never.
And up to the second time you hear it, and then after that, it falls flat after that.
But then everyone gets involved, and it almost feels like everyone did their audio track in separate rooms, because it's like, do you not hear 4 other people saying the same fucking thing? You don't need to add your voice into this. Before they eat, Kurt Russell takes all their guns, and he tells OB to put it in the shit box.
And OB says, damn it, I just got back from being outside. I'm cold as shit. Yeah. Like, why me?
Yeah.
He says, well, because I kind of trust you.
Yeah, great. That's going to come back to bite him in the ass. So they're eating. Mannix says that the Lincoln letter is fake. Warren's the only one who doesn't get his gun taken away from him, because he also kind of trusts Warren. But then he's told about the letter, and I don't know if Kurt Russell kind of probably regrets not taking his gun away from him either.
He did say that it did hurt his feelings.
It did hurt his feelings, yeah. And, although Samuel Jackson's kind of laughing about it or smiling about it, he does make the point of, without that letter, a lot of people wouldn't give him the time of day or look at him twice, because they are looking down at black people, no matter where they come from or who they say they are. But they've got that letter. It's almost like saying, well, the president likes me, so you should too.
But he said that is how he said, I did get a ride on that carriage, didn't I? Exactly.
So then Warren goes over to the general, to Smithers. And at first he's like, obviously they don't like each other. He's aware of the general because of the Battle of Baton Rouge. and that when Smithers took a bunch of black soldiers, he just shot them like right there. Like he didn't even take them in. He claims they didn't have the room or the food or whatever, but we know the truth. So he brings over some food to Smithers, and of course, when Mannix meets the general, he gets a big heart on because he's like looks up to him and he says, "My daddy always talked about you," and they know of each other and all that junk. They're jerking each other off. So then Samuel Jackson comes over while they're eating and says, "Hey, you mind if I sit here?" And at first it's cordial, a little cordial, as Samuel Jackson saying, "Hey, we fought together basically. We
shared a battlefield.
Shared a battlefield with this guy." And then he slowly starts talking about the general's son, and that's the whole reason why the general is in Wyoming in the first place, is because his son had come to Wyoming, and no one had heard from him since.
Never came back home.
Never came back home. So, this whole time, everyone's pretty much establishing the law, especially Samuel L. Jackson and Kurt Russell, because they are bounty hunters, so they somewhat work for the law, or on the law. So he puts a gun next to the general's side and he starts talking about the general's son. And he admits that he murdered his son, the general's son. But then he starts getting into more about his interaction with the general's son.
This is the one thing with watching the 4-part series where it goes a little bit too long into this.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wait, even longer? Or just...
It's long. Well, no, the actual footage of his son and Samuel L. Jackson laughing while the deed's getting done.
Yeah.
It's pretty long.
This is a pretty creepy and disturbing.
It's graphic.
Yeah, and graphic. And so, okay. So anyway, he had, he explains that Smithers' son came looking for him, basically.
$5,000 bounty.
Right. He had the bounty on him because the Southerners were still not happy with what he did. And so he goes up, him and a few other people had gone up to find him. He found them first. Smithers' son begs for his life, but instead Samuel L. Jackson has him do something else instead.
So first he strips him down, makes him strip down naked.
Walk in the snow.
They walk for 2 hours in the snow until he's so frozen he can't walk anymore.
And he doesn't beg for his life. He doesn't beg for death. He doesn't beg for his freedom. He begs for
a blanket.
And so Samuel L. Jackson's like, "Yeah, you have a blanket if you suck this dick."
What's it? My dingus?
Yeah, my dingus. Yeah.
My big black dingus.
Big black dingus. So this is so uncomfortable. And of course, Smithers reacts the way that Samuel L. Jackson wanted him to react. He goes for the gun, and therefore Samuel L. Jackson shoots him and kills him in the fact that he feels it's self-defense. Now, my question to you is this story true?
I don't know. I don't know if it's as graphically true as he says, but we are under the assumption that people from Mannix's group and the general's group and that sect of the Confederate Army were looking for Warren.
Right.
That was established when Mannix first got in the carriage.
Yes.
At first he had a $10,000 bounty, then he had an $8,000 bounty. Then when it was all said and done, it was still a $5,000 bounty. And he said, I bet they were still coming after you when it was $5,000. And he said, "Oh, Samuel L. Jackson Warren says, they were."
But we established that Warren is a liar.
Yeah.
With the Lincoln letter.
Yes.
So it's possible that he made the son walk in the snow, but to go to that extent, I don't know.
Or just lied about it altogether just so he could kill that general.
True. Very true. But one thing I did like about this movie is you don't see a lot of movies based on post-Civil War. And the post-Civil War was like a very difficult time for America. But you also have to think of it like the Southerners are the losers.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't go, like when you're in a war and you go to a foreign country and you lose, you go back home. The Southerners were home. They didn't go anywhere. They lost the war that was in their home. So I do like this idea of how bitter the Southerners are, and how they have to see this guy like Samuel Jackson walking around free, and it must, piss them the fuck off. And that doesn't really get talked about in movies. So I did find that interesting. But then with that said, it kind of just goes out the window later on. So that's the end of chapter 3. Then we have chapter 4. What's her name? Damergy? What?
Yep, Domague.
Domague's got a secret.
She's got a secret. Yes, she does.
So while everyone is distracted with the whole thing with Smithers' death, someone seen only by Daisy poisons the brewing coffee.
Now, is this the very first time that Tarantino... This is another problem that I have with Tarantino. And this movie it gets egregious. He starts narrating out of fucking nowhere.
Yes.
He does it in this scene, and then he does it in the next scene.
Yes.
But he hasn't done that throughout the entire movie, right? Up to this point.
Just the 2 times. Yeah.
It's so random.
Yeah. I wonder if he was supposed to do it in the beginning. Because like I said, we don't know the year. We don't know it's post-Civil War. Like, Django purposely told you,
yep.
Oh, it's 4 years before the war. And so I'm surprised that he didn't do anything like that in the beginning. And that could have been his narration. I mean, I just feel like he, not always, but most of the time has to be in the movie somehow. Yeah, it's very egotistical. So we don't see who poisons it, but she does. We see a hand. And then eventually John Ruth and OB drink the coffee. And it takes them a while before they start to get sick. But boy, do they get sick.
Violently.
Violently. And again, this is another, because Jennifer Jason Leigh has been, there's a scene where she asks John Ruth to, all right, so this is actually the scene. So she asks John Ruth after he drinks the coffee, she says, can I play the guitar? And he's like, fine. So she plays the guitar, she sings a song that she had been humming earlier in the movie. And then she sings it out, so she adds lyrics to it.
He asked her
and
to.
Says, did he?
He asked her, they said, that's a real nice song. Was that the one that you were humming in the carriage? And she said, yes. And he said, go ahead and play me another verse.
Oh, right. So then
and this is when she...
Yeah, she sings, something about, I'm going to watch, basically, John Ruth, I'm going to watch you die. It's basically what she says. And then he just grabs the guitar and just does a John Belushi from Animal House and just smashes the shit out of it. Like,
music
why?
time is over.
Yeah. And then he starts to, slowly after that, he starts to puke. But he's already hit her a few times while at the haberdashery. And then when he starts puking, doesn't he? He pukes on her at one point, doesn't he? Pukes blood on her.
After he knocks her teeth out.
Yeah, he knocks her teeth out.
Well, at this point, too, what's crazy is that, so he makes her put up the guitar. He smashes the guitar. He takes him back over to sit. Now, this is the whole time, the whole time in the movie, this is the only time that he had been light on her and not cuffed to him.
Right.
So he starts to cuff her back up to his arm, and she loses her shit.
Yeah.
Because she knows that she's getting cuffed to
a dead guy.
A dead body.
Yeah. Yeah. So she, right. He starts puking and he's attacking her. She eventually, well, first of all, OB dies. And then in the middle of them puking, Mannix is about to drink the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kurt Russell, because that's important too. And then Kurt Russell is like, don't drink it, it's poisoned. And then OB fucking dies. And OB doesn't need, and again, OB is probably the only decent character in the movie. And he doesn't need to die that way because it's a horrible death. It's not just like you just gasp and die. Like you're vomiting till you die.
Projectile blood vomit.
Projectile blood vomit. So then she grabs Kurt Russell's gun while he's dying and beating her, and then she shoots him with his own gun. Warren then disarms her, holds the lodgers at gunpoint, and leaves Daisy cuffed to the corpse. Now, he takes the key, and he puts it in the stove, right? Doesn't he put it in the stove?
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. She gets I mean, she's not a good person, don't get me wrong, but she just gets a lot. She gets a lot. So he holds the lodgers at gunpoint, leaves cuffed to the corpse. So him and Mannix start to trust each other because he knows that Mannix isn't a part of this because he almost drank the coffee. So this is the unlikely friendship that I have trouble believing.
Yes.
You know, I understand. I can't remember there's like a quote that basically, you know, there's a lot of quotes that basically say that sometimes friends come in weird places or strange places. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But it's just, we've established such a hatred. These two have such a hatred for each other. And they basically become good friends. I mean, they're forced to be good friends, but still. You know what I mean? At times it's a little difficult.
At this point, they're definitely in it together.
Yeah.
The first time you watch this and he gives Mannix his gun, you halfway think that Mannix is going to shoot him.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Definitely. And it seems like out of the two, Mannix, that hatred for Warren disappears more for Mannix.
Yeah.
So Warren starts to deduce that Bob is an imposter. So he asked about the stew. He asked how long Minnie had been gone. And he knew this long fucking monologue of how he knows that's
I got to stop you just one.
What? Go ahead.
One quick sec. So the annoying Steven from Inglourious Bastards, or not Inglourious Bastards, but from Django, has returned, but now he's Chris Mannix. And he is hovering over Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Everything Samuel L. Jackson fucking says, Mannix follows up with, sure did.
Sure did, yeah.
Sure didn't.
You're right. I did think that.
You know,
I did think that.
He almost drank this. I almost drank this, you sons of bitches. You know, like he just repeats every single thing that fucking Samuel L. Jackson says, but just like slightly repeats it and not as intelligently. You know, every single fucking step of the way he is hovering over him.
He does. Yeah. So he goes on through this whole thing, deducing that that stew was Minnie's, and if Minnie has been gone for so long, how did she make that stew? And then he finishes it off with saying that there was a sign on the door that said no Mexicans and no dogs, and the sign was gone a few months ago, and it's because she started allowing dogs.
Because she started to let dogs in.
It's so convenient that fucking Samuel Jackson knows so much about the haberdashery and Minnie, you know? But that's another thing that I have a problem with, but we'll get into that in the next chapter. So then he shoots Bob and he kills Bob. And at this point, you know, the twist doesn't happen now. Which you would think it would have happened now. You think it would have happened before Bob dies, but it doesn't. So Warren. So then Warren tells the other two, Tim Roth and Joe Gage, unless one of them confesses, he's going to kill Daisy, forcing
pour that
Gage,
poison coffee.
Yes, forcing Gage to admit that he did it, and then right after he admits it, the camera pans down to the basement, and we see pretty boy Channing Tatum.
Jody.
And he says
Your favorite line.
I know. Say adios to your huevos. And he shoots the gun right. I'm like, what fucking aim? How did he know he was going to shoot?
How
right
big are the cracks in the floorboards of Tarantino movies?
That he could see. That he can see.
Same thing with Inglourious Bastards. How big were those cracks?
So he had shot in the dick or the balls. And I read something.
Goodbye to your nuts.
Yeah. This was like the fourth. It was something like the fourth movie and the third time in a row where a character got shot in the dick in the Tarantino movie. And it's like, Jesus Christ. So my problem was, Avita saying to your balls was a great line. And then he had to fucking repeat it and just replace German with Mexican or Spanish. Yep. And it's just like, why? Why did you do that? You didn't need to do that. Just like you don't need to rely on getting shot in the dick for fun. I mean, it's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah. So he gets shot in the dick. Samuel L. Jackson gets shot in the dick. So, and then, Tim Roth draws a concealed gun, just like in Django, right? Doesn't it come out?
Yep.
Like Django or Taxi Driver. And he shoots Mannix, who then shoots Tim Roth. And where does Tim Roth get shot in this movie? Do you know? Or
I think it was his gut.
Yeah, his gut. Just like a Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. You'll live for a minute. You'll just be excruciating. You wish you were dead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, this is going to be an odd question. But out of the two, which would you rather get shot in, the gut or the dick?
The gut, yeah.
Yeah, I think the gut.
So this part bothers me in the movie.
Only this part? Yeah.
Well, no, just this part does, but not just this part. So this part bothers me, though. When Mr. Blonde is spinning around saying, I don't have a gun. Who gives a fuck? You're shot. You poisoned. You tried to poison me. You know what I mean? I think even the law would be on my side that I shot your ass.
Yeah. I think at this point, the whole idea of the law, I mean, he like Samuel L. Jackson forces the general to pick up a gun knowing that he's going to try to shoot him. So, and there's no forensics at this in 1870, whatever. So I'm sure if they shot him, no one would know the wiser.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I agree. They should have just shot him. So everyone's pretty much shot except for Joe Gage. And I don't think Daisy is. So then that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 5 is the 4 passengers. And now this is that early morning. And then we get to see everyone at Minnie's. Like you said, there was 2, 3, 4, 5 people, 6 people. So a stagecoach comes, and it's what was her name?
Six Horse Judy.
Judy, and then Minnie, and there was a woman plucking the chicken.
Yep.
And there was
a horse hand.
A horse hand.
Charlie. That's his name. It's Charlie.
Charlie. And then there was another guy.
Sweet Dave.
Well, the Sweet Dave was sitting in his chair. And then Ed also was with the stagecoach.
He was with Judy. Yeah.
With Judy. Yeah. So my problem with Minnie is she's so friendly and so nice.
First, she does say hats.
She does say hats, and it's something that's brought up that Samuel L. Jackson had mentioned that nobody was allowed to wear the hat. But
she never really had that big of a deal with the Mexican, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Bob was introduced, and, everyone seemed to know he was Mexican, but Minnie didn't for some reason. For someone who hates him, you think she'd be able to point him out in the lineup. And it's just, I never understood that. I felt like that was just a cheap plot ploy to say, hey, I know you're not really working for Minnie. Yeah, because Minnie doesn't like you. So that I wasn't a fan of. But, we get to see Jody and Tim Roth and Michael Madsen and Bob, and they kind of take their positions. And, there's a whole mess of dialogue. But we see Sweet Dave. You said Sweet Dave had he was playing chess with the general. So this is one, I don't know if you ever go into IMDb and just read the trivia, because sometimes you'll get lost in that shit for a certain movie, or any particular movie. But there's a piece, sometimes it's true, most of the times it's true, but I think some of the times it's not not so much true. There's a thing that Sweet Dave, that he might have been the owner of Minnie. So he might have owned Minnie as a slave. And he was in love with Minnie. And so when the end of the Civil War and everyone was emancipated, he felt bad. So he gave her the money to open up the haberdashery. And that's why he was always there. And again, like, he was in love with her. So I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems like it, you know, because you kind of got to wonder, like, where would she have gotten the money to open up that kind of place? But seeing as how he kept so much in, I'm surprised he didn't have that as well. Yeah. You know, even just like a quick mention of it. But anyway, we see everyone doing their thing, and then eventually all the guys look at each other, and then they just start killing everyone. And also saying with the Madsen killing, what's her name, Judy, it seemed like he really wasn't into that. Yes. You know, like, he kind of like reluctantly was like, oh, well, I gotta kill her. And Bob, we see Bob shoot up the door, just like Kurt Russell had predicted, and which was so stupid. It still was stupid. So everything gets explained, basically, in the scene. We see the candy, and the candy fell, and it went all over the floor. They really made a mess. Like, they couldn't have done that just a little bit
Blood
cleaner.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
There had to be blood everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And then they had to get rid of the bodies, and they'd sweep all this. I don't know. I'm the kind of person that's just like, let's stop talking, just do all this shit. Because, you know, we're on a time schedule here. It's not like you have all the time in the world. So they're expecting Kurt Russell to come with Daisy, and they want to kill him and, you know, rescue Daisy. But Jody even tells them that we got to do it slow-like. Madsen also has to go after the farmhand, or the horse hand, and follow the blood and then shoot him. But then they dump all the bodies in a well, which conveniently there's a well. I guess there would have to be. And then that's it, right? He tells them we have to be patient in this because
one thing, and I did agree with this, and I thought it was kind of a smart move on Tarantino, is when they're talking about the general, and the only reason that the general is there is Bob says, right. Hey, how about this old guy? He kind of makes sense, you know. He kind of ties this whole thing together. They show up here, and we're the only fucking people here. They're gonna know something's up. But throw this guy in there, you know, and he'll be the one piece that kind of makes the place look fucking normal. And it was true. Yeah. He was actually the one character that made the place seem kind of normal.
But Jody has to talk to him and say, "Look, you can't say a fucking word." And he's like, "I don't care about him. I don't care about you," you know. That's another thing. Sweet Dave's chair. We eventually Samuel L. Jackson reveals that there's blood in it. So now we see why there's blood in it. But yeah, this is just the explanation scene. Explains everything. What did you think of this?
But luckily, Tarantino narrated it for us.
Yeah, luckily, yeah. Just in case we had any questions about the scene. What did you think about this twist? Like, first time you saw it, if you can remember, what did you think?
First time I saw it, I was twisted. I was shook.
Yeah.
I didn't know the entire time that there was somebody in the basement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
the second time I watched it, I was thinking, why didn't he just shoot them earlier? Like, there's so many chances.
Well, you know, I understand the idea of being patient, right? And poisoning the coffee, in theory, sounds like a great idea.
Or like, how about this? How about you get what's his name? Osvaldo.
Yeah.
Look, you separate the room, fucking how you did it anyways, and you say this is the north side, that's the south side. Oh,
that was so stupid.
You get fucking all of them to go over there, and we shoot those motherfuckers up under the floorboards. We won't hit my sister. Maybe that was the idea. Because I've got impeccable fucking aim under floorboards, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. No, but that's a good point, and that could have been the reasoning behind it. I didn't even mention that because that just was like made no sense to me. It was so stupid.
Philadelphia's the bar,
and there was no follow up to that. There was none. You know, it reminded me of like shitty sitcoms. You know, of like, I'm mad at you, you're mad at me. We're gonna split the room. So it's like, I hated that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that makes a good point. And And I understand poisoning. Poisoning sounds good on paper, but once Kurt Russell started puking, like it was over. You know, like you're not going to get anyone else. And now you run the potential danger of him killing Daisy before he can die.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't understand when Samuel L. Jackson was accusing Bob of being, one of them or poisoning the coffee. Why didn't you just shoot him in the pecker then? Like, why did you wait? You know, because the problem with the explanation scene is they're ready to play their parts. The stagecoach is coming. They're ready to do it. Bob's got to be the first one out. He's got to be the first one to play the role. They hug each other. They're part of this gang, but they all hug each other as if they really do care for each other. So if you really didn't care for each other, what?
And then after we see the reveal and we see the opening sequence, the real opening sequence of Jody's gang there, the Domergue gang at the haberdashery, after we see that and we cut back, we start seeing the expressions on Joe Gage's face whenever Domergue's getting busted or hit. You know what I mean? Like it pisses him off. He does have feelings for her.
Yeah. So I don't understand why they just let.
So Bob you're right. At that point, basically, you have Walter and Samuel L. Jackson standing together with their guns on everybody. Off to the side, you have a dead John and his sister tethered to him.
Right.
And then you have all of his partners up against the wall on the other side of the room. Yeah. So that is the point to shoot them up.
Right. Yeah. It didn't make sense. But yeah, so then we get the last chapter, which is called Black Man, White Hell. And Maddox and Warren are seriously wounded. Now, here's the thing. So I said this before. So Maddox's hatred for Warren kind of just disappears. So Warren asks Maddox how he's doing. And so Maddox starts to get into, I'm okay. Like, if I don't put weight on this foot or this leg. And then Warren's like, I don't give a fuck, how you are. So actually, first, Maddox asks Warren how he is. And Warren is laying on the bed, because there's a bed in the haberdashery. And he's like, I'm not good. Yeah, my dick hurts or whatever.
I'm going to die being shot in the dick.
Die. Then Warren asks Maddox. And then Maddox starts to explain, and Warren says, you know what? I don't really give a fuck. Now, here's my point. If Maddox still hates him, why is he asking him how he's feeling and then, telling him how he feels? That's what I'm saying. It's like, at this point, Warren still hates Maddox, but Maddox seems to no longer hate Warren. Yeah. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. But so then Daisy starts saying, trying to make a deal with Maddox, and it's kind of ties to your point. Tim Roth is now sitting on the chair. He's bleeding to death. And Daisy's telling Maddox that there are 15 guys hanging out in Red Rock, and they're basically plan B, that if this didn't happen here, that then they would have gotten John, there. And Daisy says to Maddox, I am now the leader of the gang. And she says it to the other two. She's like, am I right? And they're like, you're right, Daisy, you're right. So, yeah, you see that, that gang or team mentality where they're one for all and all for one. So it just, again, it adds to my point that why wouldn't they try to save Bob before he died? But anyway, she tries to make a deal with Maddox. She tries to get him to roll over on Samuel L. Jackson and kill Samuel L. Jackson, which this would have been the perfect opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then what the fuck happens? So Jody comes out.
Yep, Jody comes out, and they greet him with some lead.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson shoots him right in the head, and it goes all over Jennifer Jason Leigh, Daisy's face.
Like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
All over her face.
Again, like a lot of Tim Roth is getting it a little bit because he's dying slowly, but it just seems like no one else gets the kind of abuse that she does. So then that's when she starts saying to Maddox, like, you haven't really done anything yet. So you can get, well, he fucking shot Tim Roth. I guess that's not nothing. But
No, but Tim Roth says, no, we're good.
Yeah. You can, yeah, she starts offering their fucking dead bodies. Like, Tim Roth's like, you could take my body, and I'm like worth $5,000, and everyone's worth something. Jody was worth $50,000, but you can't take him.
Can't take him. He's got to be buried.
Oh, he's got kids. Oh, wait, now you've got morals? So they're like bargaining on what he can take and how much he could make off of this deal. But he's got to shoot Warren. And then, he doesn't believe that there are 15 men waiting in Red Rock.
He doesn't believe. She's been nothing but a lying bitch the whole time.
Right. I'll bring it to you. What do you think? Do you think there were 15 guys there? Because we never know. No, I didn't think there were either. But it was convincing, nonetheless. Because we even see their stagecoach coming from the same direction, the opposite direction of Red Rock. So it doesn't make sense. Like, why would there be 15 guys already there? But you made the point before, Tim Roth killed, assumingly, who the hangman would have been. Or he killed the original. He killed, what's his dumb character's name? Oswaldo. He killed Oswaldo and took his identity. So after this, when you hear Tim Roth speak, he doesn't speak so much like Christoph Waltz anymore. He doesn't have the kind of expression on his face and stuff. But he eventually, he's English Pete Hickox, who is a connection to Michael Fassbender's character from Inglourious Basterds. And then you said the only other connection was the Red Apple tobacco.
Red Apple tobacco, and the brandy was Red Apple. And when Bob was smoking at the bar, Tarantino narrated him as smoking manzanas or whatever the apple is.
Yeah.
Roja.
Yeah. Enjoying, yeah.
There's manzana rojas or something.
So at one point, Warren shoots Daisy in the foot, which again is another, more abuse towards her. And then he shoots Tim Roth in the leg, who then eventually dies from his wound. Michael Madsen Gage had been he had asked if he could sit at a table. And one of the things in the reveal scene was that they had placed weapons in certain areas, and one of them was this table that Gage is now sitting on. He tries to shoot the two of them, but they end up killing him. So he doesn't really get torture either. But then it gives Daisy the opportunity to try to go for the gun. But Mannix gets up and he starts talking about how he thinks she's full of shit with the 15 guys in Red Rock, but he faints from his wound. So now there's like Daisy has to, she's still connected to Russell. So she starts hacking off his arm, trying to get the pistol, whereas Samuel Jackson's trying to wake up Mannix because he's in no position to get up. And Mannix finally reaches consciousness and shoots her again. Even though, she managed to she seemed to cut Samuel Jackson's arm, Kurt Russell's arm off pretty quickly, somewhat easily too. So then as she reaches he gains consciousness, he shoots her, wounds her again, and then Samuel Jackson persuades him to hang her from the rafters in honor of John Ruth, even though John Ruth was a bastard. So honestly, I fast forward this because it is a long sequence of them just tying her and raising her, and it's like, why do we need to see this? And then eventually, they're all covered in blood. The two of them are covered in blood, and Mannix says, "Hey, can I see that letter?" And Samuel L. Jackson takes the letter and reads the letter out loud. It's the first time we've heard the entire letter out loud. And then because there's a part in the letter where Lincoln says, "Mary's calling, so I guess it's time for bed." And then Mannix says, "That was a good touch." And
it's a nice touch.
It was a nice touch. And Samuel L. Jackson says, "Thanks." And I love this. Mannix crumbles it up and throws it on the ground. And that's the end of the movie. What an ending. This movie's way too long.
Where do you rank it?
On the bottom, right above Death Proof.
That's fair. I think that's where I put it.
Yeah. It's too long. I did want to say that this movie originally had the script, Tarantino, and the script got leaked. And he wasn't going to make the movie. And then he had a lot of the actors come and did a table read, and everyone loved it so much. And I think it was Samuel L. Jackson who persuaded Quentin to make the movie. Yeah, he shouldn't have made the movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. He should not. Yeah, I think right directly above Death Proof, and that's where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. We got one more movie left, but I already have my list. I pretty much know.
Is that one gonna go? Is that one
Yeah.
gonna go right above this one?
I gotta look. I don't think it was exactly above.
Well, I mean,
no,
right
it's
better
above,
than this one.
It's above Jackie Brown.
Okay.
So that's a little sneak peek of what I think of the movie.
The next one's long too.
Yeah, it is long.
Okay.
All right. Well,
so yeah, until I throw on some Sesame Street, dude, he's gonna yell at me. All
right. Well, that's about does it anyway for the Nick and the Hick. We do have lives outside of these pods. So I'm Eric. I'm the Nick. Until next time, once upon a time in Hollywood. You know all the like, subscribe, and all that junk. I'm Eric. I'm the Nick. And as always.
Hey guys, I'm the Hick. I'm the Hick!
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.